Okay, I start the recording. This recording is for the project. I hope that you can see my Java program there. So anytime during the discussion, if you don't see anything or you don't listen, you can write in the chat so I can quickly know this thing what is going on. So in the project, first I'm going to discuss one example program, and you are going to find this program when I'm going to provide you the project description officially. Still, I did not post the discussion, the description, but I'm going to post maybe today or tomorrow. But right now, I'm discussing that with the project, I'm going to provide you the one sample program, as I provide you the sample program in the labs. So based on the sample program, you have to create the project. So first, I'm running this program to you so that you can see the output. Then you will better understand the code of the program. So I'm going to run this program, and this program is very much similar to the program which you have done in the previous lab. So I'm going to share the, yes, you have to share. Now you have to wait the few seconds. I'm going to share with you the different output screen, because previously you will see the Java program. Now I'm going to show you the output of this program. I hope that you can see that the output of this program. Here in this program, you can see that we have a GUI is there, graphical user interface is there, and we also have a two buttons are there as we have done in the lab. Uh, One is the line radio button, other is a rectangle radio button. Now in the lab, when you click the line, it draws the line. But here in this is a little bit different. When you have a line, you can drag the mouse to draw the line. So what I am doing actually draw the line. I am dragging the mouse. I did not just click on this area. I am dragging the line. So this is the main difference. I am drawing the line by my own choice where I want to draw. Maybe I can draw here. And the second main difference is there, the previous objects are not erased. So whatever object we are creating, we have to store somewhere. Maybe we can use some collection, we can use some array. I will discuss in the coding. So every time I'm going to draw some line, it is going to create some object. It will be stored in some collection. So that's why they are available every time. Otherwise, if we just show the current object, then the previous objects are not shown. So in the example program, you will see that we are storing the object. Right now, the rectangle is not working, but I'm going to show you some solution later on in which the rectangle will also work. So right now, this is only showing for the line. So I can create lot of lines are there. They are going to be stored in this object. So this is the output of this program. Now I'm going to back again to the coding of the example program. So just wait for a few seconds. I'm going to again share with you the my Java program. I hope you can see the Java program. Now we have only right now one class is there, but inside this class we have some inner classes are there. When I open this thing, you will see that. So maybe let me open this thing little bit bigger. Java font 22. Okay. Now we have this class shape by mouse drag 3. So this is the name of the file. Any name we can write, but I write here mouse drag. The reason is that we are drawing the object by dragging the mouse. We press the left mouse button, then we move the mouse, then we release the mouse, then the line is drawn. So that's why this is called the drag operation. We have the frame width and the frame height is there. Now we are defining the two additional objects which was not there in the lab program. And these are the object of the class point. So first object is called the P1 and the second object is called the point P2. Why we are using these objects? Because we want to draw something. We want to store the starting position and the ending position. For example, for the line, we start at some point and then we drag the mouse and we release the mouse at other point. So the starting point is the P1 and the ending point is the P2. Similarly, when we draw the rectangle, maybe our starting point is the top left corner of the rectangle and maybe the ending point is the bottom left corner of the rectangle. So again, we have the 2 points are there. Top left corner of the rectangle, starting point, and the bottom right corner of the rectangle as the ending point. So we need the 2 point also for the rectangle. So that's why we are using these point object. We are going to store the x and y coordinate of the starting and the ending points in these objects later on. We define the two radio button. The first is called the line and the second is called the rectangle. The first radio button is selected by default. We write the true value here. Any title we can write for these radio button. We have the main method in which we just call the constructor. When we call the constructor, all of these class variables are initialized and then we are running this code. So in the constructor, we set the size for the frame. We set the default close operation. When the frame is closed, program is terminated. We set the title for the frame. We write this statement, location related to null, so that when we run the program, our output frame is shown exactly in the center of the computer screen. Now we set the layout for the frame. So this layout is for the whole frame. We are setting the layout as the border layout. Border layout means that the frame contains the 5 areas: the north, the south, the east, the west, and the center. We are not using all of these areas. From the 5 areas, we are going to use only the 2 areas of the frame. One is the center, where the user draw the object, the line or the rectangle, which is called the canvas. And the other is on the west side, where radio buttons are available. So from the frame, we are using only the 2 areas from the border layout. Now we create the object of the paint panel, which is actually our panel where we draw the object. So this paint panel is actually the other class in which we have the paint component method. So this is the object of the class paint panel, which is actually a panel in which we write our variables, we write our constructor, and we write our paint component method, and we write our listener. So most of the code is actually inside this class paint panel, and the important code is in this class paint panel. So here in the main frame, we are just creating this panel, paint panel. We are passing our frame width and the frame height to the panel, and then we are adding this panel to the center of the frame. So we use the constant center from the border layout class. So we create the object, then we add this object to the frame. The same object we created here, we're passing here. So the meaning is that we just create the panel, and the creation of this panel actually, because we call the constructor, it will execute all of this code. All of this code will be executed when we call this thing. And then we are adding this panel to the center of the frame. After this thing, we are creating the second panel in which we are going to add the radio button. So we call this panel as a choose shape panel. Class name is again the J panel. I always use the J panel. And then we are setting the background for this panel as a white. Of course, this is not necessary. You can keep it the same. And we set the layout for this panel as a grid layout. Right now we have a grid of 2 rows and the 1 column. Why? Because we have only the 2 radio buttons are there. One is for the line in the first row, and the second is for the rectangle, which is in the second row. When you have to insert the more objects, you have to change this size. Usually we also create the border around this panel. So we are using some constant set border and then writing the title for this border. So usually by these statements, we are putting some boundary or some edges around the border of the panel. Again, this statement is not necessary, but this is going to increase the uh, aesthetic feature or the beautification of the panel. Otherwise, the program will work without this statement. Now, since we are using the radio button and we want the user to choose only one of the radio button at a time, so they are mutually exclusive. So we have to add the button into the group. So we are creating the button group. We are adding our radio button into the group. So we add the first radio button in the group, then we add the second radio button in the group. So by using this group, only one of the radio button can be selected. Now after adding the button into the group, we are adding the button to the panel. Which panel? This panel, choose shape panel, which is on the west side, on the left side. So first we add the line radio button, then we add the rectangle radio button. And then finally we are adding our panel to the frame. Where? On the west. So our one of the panel was in the center, which was the other class, and this panel is in the west. Of course, you can write this statement anywhere. For example, you can copy this statement and you can put it here. It does not matter. Maybe I can copy here and then I can paste here, because once you have the panel, then you can add anywhere in your program. It does not matter where you add this thing. So one of the panel is in the center, other panel is in the west. We set the frame visible, all the components are compact, they are together. Now what will happen when we are going to create this object? Other class is going to be invoked. So here we have the class variables are there, and here we are using some little bit different things. In one of the lab, where you have to draw the line from the top left corner to the rectangle, and then from the first rectangle to the second rectangle, from the second to the third, you are using the array. But the array has the disadvantage that you cannot put any number of objects in the array because the array size limited, maybe 10, 20, so you have to reset the array. So rather than using the array, this time we are using the little bit different things. We are using the collection. So basically in the collection, we can add the different type of the object in the collection, which is also working something like a storage, but the size is not fixed. As we are inserting the more elements, this is going to be automatically increase the size dynamically. The user don't have to be care about the size. But when we define the collection, we have to specify that what type of the object we have to insert in the collection. So we are going to insert the object which are of the type shape. And remember that shape is the interface in the Java. And the shape is at the higher level. At the lower level of the shape, there is a line, there is a point, there is a rectangle, there is a ellipse, and there is a polygon. So meaning is that if we are using our collection as a shape, then in this collection, we can insert the line, we can insert the point, we can insert the polygon, we can insert the ellipse. So any type of the shape can be inserted in this collection. Now this collection is using the array list. So we have a list of the elements are there which are something like an array but without any specific size. But we are not concerned about this internal representation. We know just we have only the collection, we have the object name is there. So by using this object, we can call some of the method which are already available in the Java to insert the object into the collection. For example, there is a method add by which we can add the object in the collection. There is a method remove to remove the object from the collection. There is a method or the way is there by the iteration we can iterate or we can traverse through the object in the collection. So there are some advantages are there. That's why I'm using the collection for this class. Now we have the constructor for the paint panel. Not unusual things are there. Just specify the width and height for the panel, setting the size for the panel, setting the border around the panel. And important thing is that don't forget to add this listener. Without the listener, your program is not going to work. So we are adding the listener for this class. Now what will happen because of the listener? When the user is clicking on this panel, maybe by dragging the mouse, so the panel is listening the events where the user is clicking the mouse, where the user press the mouse, and where the user is releasing the mouse. A starting point where the user is pressing the mouse, and the ending point where the user release the mouse. So we can listen these events, we can get the coordinate of this position where the user press and release the mouse. So this will be the advantage for adding the listener for this class. And of course the program cannot work without this listener. Now what happened in this listener? I will discuss the listener first before I discuss the paint component method. So this is the class mouse click listener. So I will go to the class mouse click listener, then I will come to the method paint component. So we are creating the object of the class mouse click listener. So come to the class mouse click listener down here. So this is the class mouse click listener from here to here. So this is the class mouse click listener. And this is not very complex, very simple class is there. In the mouse click listener, we are implementing the two methods, the mouse press and the mouse release. So this method is going to be automatically run when the user is pressing the mouse in the drawing area in the canvas. And this method will automatically invoke or run when the user is releasing the mouse. Maybe this is the starting point for the dragging and this is the ending point for the dragging. So they are going to be called automatically. Why? Because we register the listener. So what will happen when the user is going to press the mouse? Inside this method, by using this object, we get the x and y coordinates. So we write this method get x and the get y. So they are giving us the two value, the x value and the y value. By using these two value, we are creating the point object. So we are passing this value. This is the x value. This is the y value where the user is clicking, starting the dragging, and we create the point object. And we call this object as a P1. P1 is already defined. So we create our first point, starting point. And when the user is moving the mouse and the user is releasing the mouse at some point, we are creating the second object. So at this point, when the user release the mouse, we get the x coordinate and we get the y coordinate. From these x and y values, we create the point object and we assign to the reference P2. After the point P2, we call the method repaint because we want to draw something, which is actually the repaint method is going to call the method paint component. We don't call the method paint component directly. We call the method repaint to call the method point. So meaning is that when the user is pressing and releasing the mouse, 2 points are available there. Now what we want to do with these points? Maybe we want to draw the line, or maybe we want to draw the rectangle, or maybe some other object. So let's see what happened in the method paint component. Now inside the paint component method, we are calling the superclass paint component as usual, downcasting, setting the stroke width 2.4. They are not of course necessary, just to make sure that whatever you are drawing, they are going to be little bit more thicker. Otherwise, program is going to be work without this statement. Then setting the drawing color blue, and then writing these statement, important statement. If the line radio button is selected, then call the method make line. If the rectangle radio button is selected, call the method make rectangle. I can write the code here, but just to make the things more abstract, more compact, I write the separate method for the line. I write the separate method for the rectangle. Otherwise, this can be, you cannot see. Okay, one student send the message, he cannot see. What about the other student? They can see. We can see. Okay, you can see. Okay, you can see. Okay, okay. Now, that's why we are writing the method separately so that our methods are more compact. Just we can focus on the method. So when the line radio button is selected, we call the method make line, assuming that points are already created. When the user is dragging the mouse, the points are there. So in the method make line, what we do, we say that if the P1 is not null and the P2 is not null, mean that these points are already created, because initially when we define, they are null. No object was there. So we write this condition in the method make line. If the P1 is not null and the P2 is not null, mean that user had dragged the line, user had dragged the mouse. Then what to do? Create the line object. Create the line object. New line 2D double. Get the x value and the y value for the first point, P1x, P1.x, P1.y. Get the x and y value for the second point, P2x, P2y. So by using these four values, we are actually creating the line object. This is the line object. Now what we do with the line object? We add the line object to our collection. So this is our collection name, shape list. Go back here. So this is our object name, shape list. So from this object, we call the method add. Now we are adding something in the collection. What we are adding? We are adding the line. So we are not adding the point. We of course we have the points are there, but we are not adding the point. From the point we create the line object, and then we add the line object into the collection. So when this method will be run, what will happen? Our line is there in the collection. Rectangle button, suppose that is not selected there right now. After the objects are being drawn, after the objects are in the collection, then we have to draw these objects. Still the objects are not drawn. So what we have to do? We have to see what our objects are available in this collection. We have to draw each of these objects, not just the one. So that's why we are storing them in the collection. So we are using here iterator approach. So from the collection, we are calling the method iterator. We get the iterator reference. Now by using this iterator, we can write the loop in which we can traverse along the collection one by one. So we get the first object from the collection, we draw it. We get the second object from the collection, we draw it. We get the third object from the collection and draw it, and so on and so forth. So we write the loop until the collection has the next, means that there is some element in the collection. There is some object there in the collection. Then what to do? By this method, next we get the object. We have to downcast the object to the shape, and then we have to call the method draw to draw this shape. So many things we are doing actually here. We get the object from the collection, we downcast to the shape, and then we call the method g2.draw to draw this object. So what this loop will do, this is going to get the object from the collection one by one, because what will happen, user is drawing the line many times. So every time the user is drawing the line, we are creating the new object and we are inserting the object in the collection, and once we are reaching there, we are drawing this object again and again, one by one. When the first line is drawn, this loop is going to run one time. When you insert the second object, this loop is going to run two times. Again for the first and then for the second. When the three objects are done, we have to, this loop will automatically run three times. So actually when we draw the second line, previous line also again redrawn by this thing. And every time after this drawing this object, we set the value for the P1 null, P2 null, so that they are not just the previous point. So that they have to collect the new points are there. So how this is going to work this thing. Right now I write this thing like a make rectangle, but the make rectangle is not there. You see that this is not working. Just empty code is there. So this is the program which will be given to you. So you have to construct some other program based on this program. So I discuss right now with you the example program. Now I'm going to discuss with you some other program. So please just wait. Still I'm not finished. So I'm going to discuss the output of the other program with you. So I'm going to stop this thing, discussing this thing. So just wait. I'm going to run one more program with you. I'm going to share the screen with you. Now this is an actual project you have to do. This is going to be the actual project you have to draw. Now in this you can see that we have the multiple shapes are there. We have the line. I can draw the line. I store the line object in the shape. Now when I have a rectangle, I can draw the rectangle like this thing. I can drag from the top left to the bottom right, or maybe I can drag from here to here. Maybe it means that you have to make some modification. Only the 2 points are not sufficient. You have to itself calculate what is the width of the rectangle, what is the height of the rectangle. Because in order to save this thing in the collection, you have to create the object of the class rectangle 2D double. And for the rectangle 2D double, you have to provide the x and y, which is the top left corner of the rectangle. You have to calculate the width and the height based on the 2 point. Maybe this is the P1, this is the P2, or maybe this is the P1, this is the P2. You can calculate the value for the width and height based on your calculation. Similarly for the ellipse, this is like a rectangle. Rather than the rectangle, it is drawing the ellipse, but the ellipse is bounded inside the rectangle. So we have the starting point and the ending point, or maybe from here to here. So we draw these ellipse. Anytime we can choose other things, we can draw these things. So this was about the thing. But the difficult thing is only in the program, which I think is a bit difficult, is the polygon. So in the polygon, actually you are not dragging. You click the mouse, first point is inserted, then you insert the second point, you insert the third point. Now you see that when I insert the third point, first is connected with the second, second with the third, third with the first. Because in the polygon, the last point is connected with the first point. But still maybe I want to add more point. So I add this point actually. This was the third point. This was the first, this was the second, this was the third. I want to add the fourth here. You see they are changing the shape. So this is first, this is second, this is third, this is fourth. The fourth is connected with the first one. Maybe I want to insert one more point here, coming here. So this will keep on going. Unless I change the shape, then this will not change. So polygon is little bit difficult. Other things are not much difficult. If I give you the example program, you can probably do the thing. But in the polygon, you have to make little bit effort to draw the polygon. So this will be the exercise program, sorry, project program will be do. You have to do in the project. You can work in the group. You can make minimum 2 member, maximum 4 member in the group. If you want to choose the member from the other group, you can choose it. This is allowed there. Whatever combination you want to make it, you can do this thing. But all the members must have to work as a group, and every member must have to understand the complete program from the first line to the last line. So whatever project you are doing, how you are making the group, it does not matter. But when you working together, every student in the group must be know the complete code of the program. So this is the discussion about the program. I am going